Are you looking for ways to lower your energy bill this winter? Because I know I am. PGE has this customer dashboard that makes it easy to see how you're using energy, and it gives you helpful insight into your daily habits. Just log into your PGE account and use the Home Energy Analysis tool to update your home profile. In minutes, you'll get personalized tips on how to make these energy-saving adjustments. Check it out at portlandgeneral.com/myuse. That's portlandgeneral.com/myuse. In celebration of the grand opening of the new Mark Rothko Pavilion, the Portland Art Museum is offering free admission from November 20th through the 23rd. There's also live music, DJs, curator tours, art making, and so much more. The new pavilion adds 100,000 square feet of public walkways and gallery space, and this expansion highlights nearly 300 major new acquisitions. That includes works that are rarely or have never before been on view. It's almost like a whole new Portland Art Museum. So go check it out. From November 20th through the 23rd, it's absolutely free. Hopefully, I'll see you there. Just a couple months back, Antelope, a very small Central Oregon town, turned 10 abandoned A-frame cabins into stargazing stays. But what's noteworthy about these cabins is that in the early 80s, they were originally used as housing at Rajneeshpuram, a community built by the followers of the Rajneesh movement. You see, our state has a long and weird history with cults, most famously the Rajneeshis, who settled just outside of Antelope. So for those of you new to the area who've never heard of any of this sordid history, buckle up, because today on CityCast Portland, we're revisiting a conversation I had with Kick-Ass Oregon History podcast host Doug Kenk Crispin about the impact of a few of our state's most notorious cults and even one group that exists today. It's Thursday, November 6th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Well, Doug, you grew up in Oregon.
Correct.
So what is it about Oregon that, I don't know if it creates cults or it beckons cults? Like, what is it about us that inspires that kind of living?
Well, there's been a few kind of traditionally accepted explanations for that. One of which is that historically, land in Oregon has been more economically approachable than land in other locations. And typically you could get a lot more land as well. So the parcels were a lot larger. I believe too, there's been some thought that Oregon's traditionally lower number of the general population that is involved with organized religion has been another draw as well.
More heathens is what I'm hearing.
More heathens, exactly, exactly. But I think if you look beneath those kind of two generally accepted answers, I think there's something about Oregon that just kind of draws the misfits. It's also a place that you can go to escape. You can kind of be, before the internet, anybody and just show up here and let people know who you were and why you belong here and why you needed a new life. So I think there's something about our state that really kind of draws people that want to either escape something or they want to maybe start anew, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. I feel like Alaska has that feeling too.
Yeah, kind of that last frontier, right?
Yeah, but for serial killers.
Well, you know.
But no, I agree with you. I feel like that story of Oregon and cults and Oregon and like weird and creepy or whatever has also seeped into popular culture. Like I'm thinking about Green Room. I'm thinking about Mandy. You know, these movies are very much like about these cults.
Yeah. And I mean, if we come a little bit higher from it, 30,000 foot view, what is a cult, right? So I think there's a lot of different things that we're going to be talking about today. And do they all fit kind of that standard traditional definition of cult? Or, are a bunch of Protestants wanting to come out here in the 1830s and set up a mission? Is that kind of culty? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I say yes. So let's start with some historic cults then. Tell us about the New Odessa.
New Odessa cult was a very interesting one. It was pretty short-lived. It started in Russia in the early 1880s after the assassination of Tsar Alexander II, there started another new wave of anti-Jewish pogroms, as they were called. So wave movements initiated by the government to kind of punish Jewish people living within Russia and Ukraine for some of these crimes that they perceived as originating from those folks. So in this situation, they had the law of thirds, which was they wanted to expel 1/3 of the Jews. They wanted to convert 1/3 to Russian Orthodoxy. And then the other third, they wanted to die. So pretty horrific times.
Oh,
And
wow.
emerging from that group is this kind of a proto-Zionist movement that felt that some people should go to Palestine, but other people should go to North and South America and begin these agrarian revolutions. And one of these groups chose to come to Oregon, and they started a very small town down by Roseburg. They called it New Odessa. It was a largely Jewish community from, again, these Russians fleeing these very turbulent times in Russia, came out there and started cutting down trees. They bought a 760-acre farm that they were going to turn into kind of this Jewish agrarian kind of proto-Zion, if you will, a place where they could go and learn about Jewish cultural practices, but they were also leaning pretty heavy towards communist ideology as well. So it was a very interesting community that started down there in rainy, timbered Southern Oregon. And that's really how they made their money, was a lot of guys cutting down trees, selling lumber to the railroad companies down there. And then in the evenings, they'd go back to it was kind of a barracks or a dormitory, study these Russian texts and eat a lot of bean soup.
Well, that's a good detail, the bean soup. So this was like around like the late 1800s. So I just think of like, a lot of people coming to Oregon and seeking their fortune. So what makes them a cult and not a church?
Well, that's a very interesting idea. So again, that gets back to our definition of what is a cult and what is not, what is leaning more towards socially accepted normalcy in a religious group, right?
Yeah.
So this group came out here and they were really kind of breaking away from a lot of the traditional Jewish religious precepts, but they were really embracing kind of a lot of what they felt were kind of those communist ideals. They wanted to all be vegetarian. So hence the farty bean soup. They wanted to all live together in a dormitory style, kind of have led study sessions where they conquered the same text together, had a lot of denunciations of each other and calling out if you weren't studying well or working very hard. So it was a very interesting little community that didn't stay together too long, a little over 2 years. A lot of the problem that they had there was just really backbreaking labor that they were doing, cutting down these trees, further splitting them up into cords to sell to the railroad companies and so on. But it was largely a lot of single men. And the women that did come out with that organization, most of them were married in small families, young families, and so on. So the single men kind of complained about the lack of women out there on the farm. Nobody really liked the food. They did have a fire at their main dormitory that burned some of their library. So that caused some discontent as well. So unfortunately, the New Odessa settlement didn't last too long here in Oregon.
All I'm hearing is a vegetarian enthusiastic book club.
That really kind of hits onto it, but with lots of really unpaid labor, really tough unpaid labor in the midst as well.
I think that's the key is the unpaid labor. I feel like that really is what highlights a cult is like,
there we go. There we go.
Someone's making money off you. Well, speaking of unpaid labor, what a smooth transition. I feel like this next group that we're going to talk about is like the most famous cult that came out of Oregon and even inspired a Netflix series, Wild Wild Country, which is the Rajneeshis. This was around your time. Like you were a kid when this was coming up, right?
That's right. Yeah. So these are exactly 100 years later than the settlement at New Odessa. And this was a group of largely Indian mystics that came over from India to the United States. They were in this interesting point of their religion where they really wanted to embrace traditional kind of Indian Buddhism and Hindu beliefs, but they really wanted to embrace technology and bring it to the West. to where it could really be presented to a lot of really kind of capitalist interested folks. So this group, Rajneeshpuram, came out and they settled out east of the Dalles, Oregon, because again, they wanted lots of cheap land that they could easily purchase up. And they decided to start a new city, which they were going to call Rajneeshpuram. And Bhagwan Shri Rajneesh was the guru of the group. And he liked to ride around their little small town every day in one of his 93 Rolls Royces. The Bhagwan liked some of the finer things in life, and his followers, many of them kind of early techies from California, early 1980s techies, had made a lot of money and didn't mind sharing some of that with the Bhagwan. So his Rolls Royce collection was very well known throughout the West. And yeah, they had a community of about 7,000 people out there. At one point, a friend of my dad's had called up, kind of a family friend, and said, "Hey, I want to head out there to Rajneeshpuram and see what all those Rajneeshis are doing. You want to join me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So we got in his Volkswagen bus and we drove out to Rajneeshpuram and had a day there just kind of walking around their weird little town. The sannyasas, as they were called, they used to dress up in burgundy or like red robes. Yeah. So if you've seen the show on Netflix, you get a good idea of kind of how the entire place looked. So it was a very interesting field trip. And yeah, they were into vegetarianism as well. So
I was going to say, I was like, weren't they also vegetarians? Yeah. I feel like a lack of protein is also a very...
Well, you know.
I'm not saying being a vegetarian doesn't mean you don't have protein, but I'm just saying if you're a cult vegetarian, sometimes it leads to malnutrition.
Exactly. But they had a couple different restaurants. They were very popular in Europe, the Rajneeshis.
Oh, interesting.
So they had a lot of discotheques and vegetarian restaurants that they called Zorba the Buddha. So there's a definite chain of them. So, wow. You could go and get your dal curry and then you should be dancing. Yeah. So
that's really a weird mashup of disco and vegetarian restaurants. And this was like in the 1980s, right?
That's right. Yeah. They were all pretty much done in Oregon here by 1985. They really became very, very political, and the group wanted to be involved in essentially changing a lot of Oregon's land use laws. We have a lot of laws in Oregon kind of presented to stop sprawl, that we call it the urban growth boundary. Tom McCall, our Republican governor in the 60s, gets a lot of credit for it. And so they were really trying to battle some of those initiatives because you can't buy a bunch of agricultural land, move 7,000 to 10,000 people in, put in a water system, a sewage system, and say, hey, this is a town. You need to follow kind of the legislation within our state in order to do that. The Rajneeshis were not doing so. And so they faced a lot of legal challenges. So their thought was, well, if we could take over the Wasco County Council, we would then have some political sway in some of these decisions. So that's when things kind of started going a little nutty when the Rajneeshis decided to take kind of extra action to make sure that they got enough of their cult followers on the council for Wasco County.
Yeah, because it led to poisonings. It led to
That's right.
some kind of light death threats.
Wiretapping.
Light voter fraud,
Yeah, exactly.
Just all those things.
They used to bus all the homeless from the city streets of Portland out there and get them to register to vote so they could vote for folks in Wasco County.
From free meal and
exactly. Free beer. Yeah.
I heard that, this could just be a speculation, but I heard that this might be a reason why we ended up with vote by mail.
Yeah, I looked into that a little bit because I had heard that as well, and I couldn't find anything solid to really kind of rest my hat on there. But what I did find out was that they did increase the length of time to register to vote in Oregon. So rather than just moving somebody out to a community, having them register to vote the next day, and then they vote, it takes a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, because that proposal actually originated from rural Oregon.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever eat at the restaurant?
I did. They had a restaurant out there in Eastern Oregon at Rajneeshpuram, but also downtown Portland, Southside Restaurant is now.
I wouldn't know.
The one off of Broadway. Anyways, yeah, Zorba the Buddha was again a disco downtown. And then on Sunday mornings, they used to have a brunch that would go on in there. My old man was a classical guitarist, so he'd come out there and play classical guitar during brunch. So my folks would take me down to a Sunday morning brunch at Zorba the Buddha. And let me tell you, it was the eggs were fantastic.
I was going to ask what your order was. Was it just eggs?
I mean, again, I was a teenager. I remember eggs and fruit salad and some bitchin' classical guitar.
I don't know. Sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
But I hear Tom McCall's a nonprofit 1,000 Friends of Oregon was like the final like nail in that coffin.
Yeah, they were very, very involved in it. And they have a very good history of that process on their website as well, because it's interesting to think that the way that you're going to confront this really a murderous cult that's engaging in biological warfare here is through the legal system and suing them and so on.
Yeah.
They really were instrumental in turning a lot of that over.
Yeah. And for those who are just like murderous, they actually tried to spread, is it salmonella?
Yes, salmonella throughout the salad bars in the Dalles and other areas of Wasco County. They poisoned over 700 people, sent over 45 to the hospital with the effects of salmonella there. So they just went into all the salad bars in town with a little vial of this bioweapon and just dumped it within the salad dressings and so on.
So messed
and sickened
up.
over 700 people.
To prevent them from voting.
Yeah, exactly.
But there you were, just eating eggs.
There we go. Yeah, just watching history.
Just at their restaurant.
Yeah.
Just ordering food.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my God. All right, well, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, more with Doug Ken Crispin about the history of Oregon Colts. We're getting to that time of year when we start sending out holiday cards and gifts to friends and family. And for me, it's always been a struggle to find cute stationery that isn't $1 million and isn't, kind of ugly. But I found an option that is woman and BIPOC owned, sustainable, supports local artists, has beautiful designs, and is printed right here in Portland. Allport Editions has been making artistic greeting cards and gifts since 1982. And they have an adorable storefront in the Kearns neighborhood, so you can go check them out yourself. Right now, they're having a holiday preview sale, which runs through November 10th, and CityCast listeners get 10% off all holiday items, plus a free gift online at allports.com or in store using the code CityCast25. They're also throwing in free shipping on orders over $75. Currently, my favorite design is their Holidays in Portland. It's this super colorful kaleidoscope of landmarks, landscapes, and activities that define our city during the holidays. There's even a cute drawing of Rose 2 and Tula 2, the mother-daughter elephant duo for zoo lights. It's so adorable. Anyhow, use CityCast25 for 10% off and a free gift at allport.com or the Allport Edition storefront in Northeast Portland. The Portland Bureau of Transportation wants to make riding your bike all year long a lot easier and more fun. Their program, Ride Through the Seasons, encourages you to try out cycling year-round through a series of group rides and skill-building workshops. In addition to all that, they're also hosting a month-long Rainy Rider photo contest in November with chances to win some awesome prizes. To learn more and get involved, text BIKE to 888-520-0526 or visit portland.gov/ride seasons. That's portland.gov/ride seasons. Okay, I have the next 60 seconds to convince you to go check out Dewar Jeans. You can time me. Are we ready? Okay, go. Dewar makes stylish, bike-friendly clothes that are designed to keep you cool, comfortable, and looking good. They're pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing without it looking like boring athletic wear. Like, even if these clothes weren't made with Coolmax, which is supposed to regulate your body temp and wick moisture, you would want to wear them. They gave me a pair of jeans to try out, and y'all, they look good. And they're not harnessing the full power of the sun and directing it straight to my legs like most other jeans do when it's sunny and above 70 degrees. And Dewar just opened up a store right here in Portland at 820 Northwest 23rd Avenue, so you can feel the difference firsthand. And CityCast Portland listeners get 15% off their first order. You can either just mention the code CCPDX for your first in-store purchase, or go online at shopdewar.com/CCPDX. That's shopdeuer.com/CCPDX. 60 seconds on the dot. most recently, there's been talk of a cult in Ashland, Oregon called the Twin Ray. They're like labeling themselves a nonprofit, but if you go to their website, it doesn't feel like a nonprofit. It really much reads like straight up cult. Have you looked into them at all?
Yeah, I have. I had a chance to read that fantastic article that Leah Santilli wrote for OPB. She delved pretty deep in it, in addition to, of course, the Twin Ray website, and their Insta account is pretty groovy as well. So, yeah, it looks like that was a fantastic place to get some pretty groovy crystals if you were in downtown Ashland. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, they closed the Haven, which was the name of their crystal and spirituality store down there.
Well, can you break down the Twin Ray cult for those who have not heard of it?
Yeah, so the Twin Ray cult, I mean, I'm, again, somewhat like the Rajneeshis, having a hard time really digging into what they're all about. But it looks like they offer a lot of classes and kind of self-improvement and self-awareness and increasing your spirituality, energy, and ceremonial teas and, pyramid candles and things like that. But it looks like, they definitely move heavily into this self-improvement awareness, using a lot of social media, of course, to draw folks in. And in several of the articles that I've read, there are numerous people that have given them tens of thousands of dollars to be essentially disciples, one of the 12 that's at their chosen circle, and so on. And it's this couple that got together and were married a few years ago. They met while they were touring the Sphinx, and rays of sunlight shine down on both of them. And that's why it's called Twin Rays. That's a pretty badass way to tell your kids that's how you met, But anyways, they knew that they had been star-crossed in previous lives, and they were just to reunite in this ethereal plane, as it were. And so, it's got a wonderful creation story behind it from 2019. And it seems like they chose to really invest a lot of their followers' money in some pretty expensive property down around Ashland, Oregon, that I believe has gone into foreclosure since then. But
wow.
Nonetheless, they were pretty active down there. And again, it looks like if you want to get onto some of the different social media platforms and send them a few grand, they'd be more than happy to take it.
Yeah, I read that they call themselves Divine Mother and Divine Father, and they offer remote surgeries, DNA upgrades, and karma clearings.
I could use some karma clearing, I can tell you that.
Former followers have also said that the cult routinely gave them DMT psychedelics on retreats without them knowing, so they were just dosed. And they would push them into these weird, like, only mono fruit diets where, like, you could only eat grapes or you could only eat watermelon for like 6 months, and that was your weird cleanse.
Yeah.
Which sounds, again, malnutrition.
Yeah. And when they bring you into the spiritual room and give you a cocktail and you look at the buckets and you ask, what are those? And they say those are for the profuse vomiting that's going to follow. I mean, that's generally a good idea to be like, hey, where am I right now? Just have a quick check-in.
Am I in a cult?
Yeah.
Like, you should maybe call somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Spending a couple grand to then vomit for 10 hours just doesn't sound like a good investment of time or money.
Yeah. So that cult, the Twin Ray, it's reminiscent of Love Has Won, which I don't know if you've heard of them. HBO actually made a series about them, and it focused on their leader, Amy Carlson, who called herself Mother God, and her succession of father gods. And what's interesting is, even though the cult Love Has Won originated in Colorado, she actually died in Ashland. Her body ended up being moved back to Colorado, and an autopsy found that she died from alcohol abuse, anorexia, and this is the kicker here: chronic colloidal silver ingestion. And when authorities found her, they reported she was mummified, covered with a sleeping bag, wrapped in Christmas lights. She weighed about 70 pounds, and her skin was completely blue because of the silver that she was poisoning herself with.
Wow.
And that happened all in Ashland, Oregon, which is crazy. And then I feel like these two weird cults were happening around the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
And they each had like a mother and a father figure. It's really interesting. Like, they could have formed a super cult.
One-stop shop.
Yeah, just
get your crystals.
Yeah.
It's
get your silver. I mean, we're like joking, haha, but I mean, these are real people.
Exactly.
Are actually like giving up their lives for this. I don't get it.
Exactly. And again, bringing this kind of back to Oregon, it's kind of in our country, we do have freedom of religion without anyone judging us. And so we look at kind of our larger narrative of people coming out to Oregon to get to a spot where they can kind of get away from some of those constraints of the societies that they've just been in and out into this larger sweeping land masses and so on, plenty of space to practice any sort of religion. So where are we to say, again, this one is weird versus the Whitmans coming out here in the 1830s on a covered wagon, setting up a mission in order to convert the Cayuse native people to Christianity, right? So where is the line between accepted religion and selling crystals in downtown Ashland?
I think it's the poisoning with silver. But I mean, colonization is pretty shitty too. So
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for hanging out and going through some of Oregon's, I guess, most well-known cults. I know there's more too. Like, there's gotta be more.
Oh, there's plenty more. And there's a gentleman named Jim Kopp, Kopp, who wrote a book called Eden Within Eden about Oregon's cults. So if anyone wants to dig some more into it. And of course, I'd really, really recommend the Wild Wild Country Rajneeshi program. Really good examination in that group.
Yeah, I think it's still on Netflix. It's really good. All right. Well, thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Claudia. I appreciate it.
And now for some events happening this week. Every Thursday on the show, we like to bring you a few recommendations to help you plan your weekend. And here's what we got. It's First Thursday at the Portland Art Museum, which means free admission all day from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And while you're downtown, it's also First Thursday at PNCA and the surrounding North Park blocks. Pro tip, they usually have free refreshments. Also starting today and going through Friday, the Crystal Ballroom is hosting a 2-night holiday market. Sip, shop, and celebrate over 75 Portland makers at crafts and cocktails. They're inviting you to start your holiday shopping a little early and soak up the cozy end of year vibes. It goes from 4 to 10 p.m. both nights. And this Saturday is the Portland Book Festival happening all over downtown, including the Portland Art Museum. I'm especially excited about the pop-ups happening at PAM, where every 15 minutes you can catch an author read a small excerpt in front of art that's been paired with their work. Of course, there's so much more happening all over town this weekend. For even more local events, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Portland. You can also find the details for everything I've mentioned on our site, portland.citycast.fm/events. We'll throw a link in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend or rate and leave us a good review. It really helps us out. And don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast neighbor. Just visit membership.citycast.fm for all the details. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.